Speaking of the Ohio senator, just before he spoke on stage Saturday, I had a chance to speak with J.D. Vance one-on-one about what he'll do for us here in Erie County, his prior criticisms of former President Trump, and reaching across the aisle to get those all-important independent voters.
This state, starting with Butler, is going to turn red, and we're going to send Donald Trump back to the White House.
What is it that you're going to bring to Erie County voters?
What we do when we come to these events is we really try to persuade voters. It's the heart of American democracy, and we're thrilled to be back here, of course, memorializing some people who lost their lives, but really celebrating, I think, what this country could be if we had better leadership. And, you know, what we bring, I think, to Western Pennsylvania is just common sense principles that are going to get the country back on track. If you ask yourself, why are things so expensive right now? It's because Kamala Harris, I think, went to war on American energy markets, made it harder for Pennsylvania workers to do what they do, but that drives up the cost of goods for everybody else. So if we can open up those energy resources, we can empower Pennsylvania energy workers, we're going to make everybody richer, we're going to bring down the cost of goods, and we're also going to create a lot of good jobs in Western Pennsylvania.
What was it, Senator, given the background that you've had to deal with, how do you overcome that and get to a point that you're at now?
You know, man, I overcame it because I had a grandmother who really, even though she didn't have a whole lot of extra money, she had a whole lot of extra love, and she invested in me and gave me a lot of discipline, but also stability that we know all kids need. I mean, you know, one of the things why it's amazing for a kid who came from a working class background to be able to stand here and ask the people of Pennsylvania to make me their next vice president is it's a great testament to our country, to what's possible. But in my particular case, man, without my grandmother, I would not be standing where I am today.
How do you reach across the aisle and get to those independents and conservative Democrats that are out there that could very well decide this election?
Yeah, well, you know, one argument I'd make is if you look at not just the president's campaign and me, right? We're both Republicans, obviously, but Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard have endorsed our campaign. And I was actually raised by, you know, blue-collar Democrats, people who felt very home in John F. Kennedy's Democratic Party. But what I'd say is unfortunately, I think Kamala Harris's leadership has left a lot of those folks behind. They're not talking about rising wages. They're not talking about how to redeliver prosperity. They're not talking about securing the southern border. They're talking, I think, about a very divisive kind of politics that tries to say, well, you're in this racial bucket, you're in this gender bucket, and we're going to divide Americans rather than unite people together. We want everybody, whatever the color of your skin, whoever you go to bed with, whoever you love, whatever your gender is, we want you to be able to live a good life in this country. We just can't make that happen if we've got the broken policies of Kamala Harris. And so I think that whether you're a Democrat, independent, or Republican, you're welcome in this movement so long as you've got common sense, which I think most Pennsylvanians do.
Senator, you used to have criticism for President Trump back in 2016.
Yeah, of course I did.
Now you're going to stand on stage with him. What moment was it that turned the tide there, sir?
You know, it's not any moment. I think, first of all, he was a very successful president. Wages were rising. Take-home pay was rising. You had low inflation. You had a secure southern border. So in a lot of ways, when you see the results and you see how good it was for the American people, if you're a thinking person, I think you ought to change your mind and say, look, I maybe didn't think he was going to be a good president. He was a great president. And it's important to be honest with people and go out and tell them what you were wrong about and why. And I'd also, you know, just for your listeners out there, maybe people who are skeptical of President Trump, a little undecided, maybe they don't like what he said, but they like his policies. You don't have to like what everybody says. That's what's great about this country is we can have diverse viewpoints, we can have disagreements, but I think most people would admit Donald Trump's policies secured the border, made our country safer, and made it more affordable for people to live a good life. That's what we really want. I think we can get back to it.